from LEX 18 News, with in-depth coverage of the issues that challenge Kentucky. This is State of the Commonwealth with your host, Conroy DeLuche.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to State of the Commonwealth. I'm Conroy DeLuche, and we are getting you ready to help you make your decision in the upcoming primary election by looking at topics shaping the future of our state. In the next few weeks, we are diving deep beyond the ballot box and previewing the election and focusing on some statewide issues. Last week, we discussed the future of medical marijuana and the hemp industry in Kentucky. This week, we're examining the opioid epidemic. In 2017, more than 70,000 Americans died of a drug overdose. 2/3 of those deaths were opioid involved. The Centers for Disease Control listed the states with the highest death rate due to drug overdose. West Virginia and Ohio rank 1 and 2, and those are two of Kentucky's border states. Kentucky has the 5th highest rate at 37 overdoses per 100,000 deaths. And the CDC says that's a statistical significant increase from 2016, and that's a trend that has continued this decade. This is a problem not just in our Commonwealth, but the entire country. And while Washington is taking action, Connor McHugh is here to show us how one Lexington man is trying to make change at the community level.
Alex Elswick's journey could be best described as cautionary tale turned inspirational story. And it's important to note, most people don't come back from the depths of addiction like he did, but that right there is the foundation of what he's trying to do now.
And that was kind of the very beginning, I guess.
Chances are you grew up with someone like Alex Elswick, a star on the Henry Clay baseball diamond, an even more promising student. At 18, he moved just 30 minutes away from home to Center College in Danville.
I don't think many people I grew up with would have said that's a kid who's going to get addicted.
But Alex did. The first red flag was an arrest for marijuana. Then 2 months later, a doctor prescribed him oxycodone for wisdom teeth surgery. When that pill bottle ran out, he found another and another.
And I was making good grades as I was getting more and more addicted, so I kind of believed the lie that meant that I didn't have a problem, you know, when it quickly became apparent that I really had a problem.
Alex jokes he was the last person in Kentucky to know. After 2 years of relapses, an introduction to heroin and homelessness, he figured it out.
For me, rock bottom looked like sleeping under a bridge. I mean, I was literally sleeping under the Highway 35 overpass in downtown Dayton and shooting heroin and holding a cardboard sign. And a lot of times I tell people, even though I don't look like the stereotype today, when I was in the depths of addiction, I very much looked like a living, breathing stereotype of heroin addiction.
Eventually, Alex found his way out of the cycle. He credits the many programs that helped him, but most importantly, his privilege.
It's not like it was toughness or grit that got me sober. It's not like I'm in recovery because I'm strong. Those narratives just aren't real. I'm in recovery because I got access to all the help that I needed. And a lot of my friends don't have access to those things, and that's where Voices of Hope comes in.
Voices of Hope is how Alex is returning the favor these days. It's his nonprofit focused on support in recovery. On any night in the office off Old Vine, you'll find free programming such as AA meetings, sober social events, and Alex's favorite,
what happened there?
Telephone recovery support, a method of calling people in treatment and checking up on them.
All we're doing is keeping them engaged and trying to build a rapport with them and connect. And sometimes people tell us that the phone call they get from us is the most meaningful human connection they have all week.
Alex is also involved in the University of Kentucky's Collegiate Recovery Community. It's a sober living program for students with the goal of one day having an independent dorm. On top of that, he's often out in the community raising awareness and offering hope to people in recovery.
We're not hiding out from the community. We stand up and shout out and say, I'm in recovery and I'm proud of that. And I think that goes a long way towards changing the narrative around addiction and recovery.
It's a long way to changing that narrative, but Alex plans on doing his part. As someone in recovery himself, he knows how hard the journey is and where people and programs can help.
That's a great story to see, and his story is not just being known in Kentucky.
No, it's really traveling around these days. Just last week, he shared his story at the National Drug Abuse and Heroin Summit in Atlanta. There, he was on different panels, and he even got some recognition from President Trump. So his story really resonates with people, and he's hoping to seize that opportunity and help a lot of people.
All right, thanks, Connor. Now we'll move on to Washington, where Kentucky Congressman Andy Barr says there have been laws passed to help combat the opioid epidemic. Among them, the Comprehensive Addiction Recovery Act, the 21st Century Cures Act, and funding needs to continue to those programs. The congressman also says Kentucky was one of 6 states that will receive a pilot program under the Career Act. That means the state is now eligible for federal funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development and Department of Labor for long-term transitional housing and job training for people in recovery. When I sat down with him last week, he told me that we cannot afford to lose another 70,000 Americans to drug overdoses.
Major sense of urgency. Again, it is not only a personal tragedy when we see an overdose or someone who is struggling with addiction, but it's also a real problem for economic productivity in our country. And American competitiveness depends on us tackling this problem and overcoming this problem so that every American can achieve their God-given potential and overcome their addiction.
Congressman Barr says a new grant called the Healing Communities Grant will go a long way to help in studying the crisis. The program's goal, reducing opioid overdose deaths by 40% in 16 counties. Nearly 30 West Virginia hospitals and 10 affiliates in Kentucky have signed on to a lawsuit which is going after some of the country's largest opioid companies. They say those companies flooded Appalachia with powerful painkillers and forced medical centers to deal with the financial repercussions. The suit was filed Monday in Marshall County, West Virginia. A lawyer connected to the case says that this is the first time a large group of hospitals in one state has teamed up to take legal action against opioid firms. One forgotten group in this ongoing epidemic consists of the women trying to overcome substance abuse while caring for newborns and young children. In many communities, there are programs for these women while they are pregnant, but finding help for mom and child afterward is not always easy. Lexington is an exception. UK's College of Nursing created a groundbreaking program, and here's a look inside the Beyond Birth Comprehensive Recovery Center.
5 years ago, Holly Dye and Kristen Ashford saw a void in our community. Women recovering from substance abuse had help before birth, but nothing after.
We had women calling, crying that they either couldn't find care or it just wasn't what they had become accustomed to. And so that didn't feel good to us. So we began to say, okay, come back, we'll figure this out.
The solution? A program called Beyond Birth.
We just continued to do the next right thing, which was help these women get everything that they needed. If we could transition them back to the community, obviously we want to do that.
The program includes everything mothers in recovery might need. Family medical care, counseling, even help with parenting.
Having that place where they feel safe and they can they trust that the people that are providing their care is a really important component to have them come back, because we want to be able to provide as many treatment services as we can for them.
Because of that, more than 300 women have come through the doors since 2014. And there's enough demand that the program recently moved into a new building on the Eastern State Hospital campus. And soon, you may see programs like it around the country, as Dye and Ashford hear from other states and hospitals all the time.
We can't be afraid of it because the problem's gotten too big. What we need to do is just really focus in on it and then get people healthy enough to go and live a life of long-term recovery.
If you are interested in learning more about this innovative program, we'll have a more comprehensive story on our website, lex18.com. Just check under the State of the Commonwealth tab. According to the CDC, the number of deaths involving heroin trend in the hundreds in Kentucky, and the same goes for deaths involving prescription opioids. But as we've said, there are people actively working to combat this problem. We have a few of them here with us, and we'll talk to them next on State of the Commonwealth. We'll be right back.